Gentleman from New York.
I would inquire as to how much time we have remaining on the side.
The gentleman from New York has 4 minutes remaining, and the gentleman from Texas has 4.5 minutes remaining.
I will yield as much time as he consumes to the gentleman from Indiana.
The gentleman from Indiana is recognized for such time as he may
consent to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, so
I thank the chair. Mr. Chairman, the Paul Amendment, which was approved by the Rules Committee and made in order, is an amendment that prohibits funds to be spent on the International Court. Now, some would argue that that's a good government amendment, and he had every right to bring that before debate and a vote of the House of Representatives. There were 5 members of Congress that went before the Rules Committee to try to get a similar amendment on a prohibition of funds for the Crusader, which is a 155-millimeter howitzer, which does not have a military requirement anymore, which does not have the support of this administration. And I fear, Mr. Chairman, that if Congress cannot even vote on a system that the Pentagon doesn't even want anymore, has recommended that we kill it, what kind of confidence with good government do the people of this country have that we're doing our business here in this Congress? There are compelling arguments to make that this body has an obligation to debate these issues, to consider them, and to vote on them. And that's one of the reasons my friend Mr. Taylor has been making the motions that he's made all night long, so that members of Congress can do their duty, their principled obligation to bring ideas to the floor, get debate, work with members of the Republican majority party, and get amendments put into bills or have them defeated. Now, the Crusader has a military requirement that Napoleon may have used, may have benefited. Ulysses S. Grant sure could have shortened the war in the Civil War. John Pershing really could have used it probably in World War I. But Secretary Rumsfeld says he doesn't want it to fight terrorists. He doesn't need it in this new century to fight wars against our enemies. Why then does the Congress refuse to have a debate on this issue? Maybe the opponents would lose. Maybe they can convince us. But not to have this debate in this great body says to the American people, Congress, the headlines tomorrow will be, Congress has never met a weapons system, even in war, that the Secretary doesn't want, that they won't approve, that they can't kill. Now, the President of the United States has supported Secretary Rumsfeld. They have both said they don't want it. The military requirement is no longer there. What about using the $11 billion that this Congress wants to spend on that and put it toward the war on terrorism? What about buying some more ships? What about health care? What about an additional pay raise for our military? Those are things that we could do with $11 billion on a Crusader that we don't need, that is not a requirement, and that this administration doesn't want. But we can't even debate it. We can't even have a vote on that important amendment. So I'd be happy to yield to the gentleman.
Question why we can't debate it, and he's entitled to an answer. It would be a little embarrassing for people who have been arguing almost all the time that with a war going on, we must rally around the president, support the commander-in-chief, give the Defense Department what it asked. It would be embarrassing for them to then have to vote exactly contrary to that. Now, the rules of this House do not require consistency. The rules do not require members having stated a principle to live by it. So they could say that, but it would be embarrassing. So that's the answer to the gentleman's question. The majority clearly could not simultaneously continue to argue that it's everybody's patriotic duty to rally around the Commander-in-Chief and the Secretary of Defense on military matters and then vote to repudiate them. So the way they do this is by silence.
The gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from Texas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I ask unanimous consent to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is unprecedented to repudiate a signature on a treaty, but it's very important. They must have felt it was extremely important for the protection of our soldiers. So it's this discomfort you might feel about the repudiation of a signature versus doing what we think is best to protect our troops. And I honestly believe this is very necessary. Now, the argument that all of a sudden we're going to capture Saddam Hussein and we're not going to have the International Criminal Court to deal with him, that's really not a good argument, because the special tribunals for Yugoslavia as well as Rwanda can and still be set up. It has nothing to do with that, so that would still be available. And it is the jurisdiction, it is the sovereignty, it is the civil liberties of the American soldier that we're dealing with. Mr. Barr brought this up, and this is very true. These trials, they don't have juries. The judges are appointed in secret. They cannot face their accusers. And we're going to join an organization like that, endorse it, send money, and say that our troops may become subject to this? To me, it's an extremely dangerous situation that we have here now, because we didn't even ratify the treaty. And we repudiated the signature, and they're still saying it is going to apply to our soldiers. And we have a serious problem on our hands, and we should at least do this very little thing here, because this is a sense of Congress resolution that we would not like to have the president spend any money on this, and this would support his position. And I reserve the balance of my time.
Does the gentleman yield back the balance of his time?
Okay, are they finished?
Yes,
I'll yield back.
Their time has expired.
Okay.
The gentleman yields back the balance of his time. The question is on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Texas. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, the noes have it.
I ask for a recorded vote.
Pursuant to Clause 6 of Rule 18, further proceedings on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Texas will be postponed.